Welcome back to the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast. In today's episode, my special guest is Dr. Joseph Antoun. Dr. Antoun completed his health policy studies at Harvard University, public health at Johns Hopkins University, medical and biological sciences at St. Joseph University, and his PhD studies in Mediterranean and Middle Eastern studies at King's College. He is the CEO of a company called L-Nutra that provides education and products to support a lifestyle that extends health span and life expectancy through natural dietary and fasting measures designed to enhance overall longevity, fight age-related disease, and live longer and healthier lives. In today's episode, my mind was kind of blown. Dr. Antoun and I got into it on fasting and all things fasting. I am walking away from this interview with a completely different perspective on the world of fasting and the implications for the ageless athlete. So if there is an episode not to skip, it is this one here. We cover intermittent fasting. We cover different fasting protocols and how L-Nutra's Fasting Mimicking Diet gives you all the benefits of fasting without the suffering of having to starve yourself. If you like today's podcast, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, share with your friends, and enjoy this episode with my special guest, Dr. Joseph Antoun. Dr. Antoun, where does this podcast find you?
Hi, I'm actually talking today from Dallas. I live between LA and Dallas.
So you're feeling the heat as much as I am right now. I'm in South Florida.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it seems there was two streams of migration with COVID. California to Dallas and New England to Florida, right?
Exactly. And is that what you did? You kind of migrated a little bit to Dallas now?
We still kept our presence in LA. We just added an office here in Dallas for multiple reasons.
Yeah. And trust me, I think a lot of people coming from the New England area down to Florida saw the writing on the wall as well. But we're not here today to talk about geography, Dr. Antoun. You are probably the most prolific and pronounced person that I've come across in terms of the world of fasting and what is and isn't fasting. And obviously you have a company that's based around fasting, L-Nutra. Is that correct?
Yeah, L-Nutra, L for longevity through nutrition.
Absolutely.
How can we help people live long and healthy through nutrition or the absence of nutrition?
Absolutely. I love that. And I know that your original tagline was going to be live long and prosper, but that was already taken by other people. So today I want to pick your brain about the specific audience that I work with. And that's kind of like the ageless athlete. We're talking about people who are 40 plus looking to optimize their health. They have the 2.5 kids with the white picket fence. They're career minded and oriented, and they're not in too much disease yet. But, in learning about the things that you and your company do, I'm very intrigued about the implications of the interventions that you offer. So if you can give me a broad stroke of what L-Nutra is all about, what would that look like?
Yeah. So L-Nutra started doing research on food. We're known to be a nutri-tech company, meaning we said, look, we know that food is the most important signal potentially can bring to your body because we consume this product called food multiple times per day, every day. And so we said, how come, and it's the biggest industry in the world, but how come there's so many theories around what you should eat, what not, and nobody comes in and put the right discipline science to finally figure out what should we eat to live healthy long and when should we not eat. And so how come that biggest industry and something we do every day has been taken advantage by businesses and by theories and books and publishers and all of that, but never brought the pharma level and the biotech level of science, which done a great job on pills with, probably 60, 70% of cases we can avoid those. But how come nobody brought that level of science to nutrition? And this is, we believe, who we are today. We're called a nutri-tech company. We use biotech technology, meaning randomized clinical trial, labs, and human research. We do those at universities. We have 16 universities around the world that do research with us. And we basically see how we can use food signals to help people live healthy long. And then how can we bring those into very clean nutritional programs for people to consume? And while our founder, Professor Walter Longo, 23 years ago, looking at food signals, he uncovered the signals of fasting. And then it took him a good 13 years of mice trials and then human trials and then big publications and papers on what fasting can do to the body, whether you're healthy for your longevity and whether you have a health condition for managing health conditions. And when these papers came out in 2014, 13, 14, 15, 16, this is when fasting ramped up across the world. And now it's the number one diet, by the way, in the US already. So we're born out of all this research around nutrition and fasting.
I want to follow up about fasting because not all fasting is created equal in your world. Is that right, Dr. Anton?
Yeah. Well,
Can you elaborate that a little bit?
yeah. The best way to understand fasting is to think about, and maybe this relates to a lot of your listeners given their age and education level. I mean, imagine you're a CEO of a company. You have a company. That's your buddy. And imagine you need $1 million a month to operate this company.
That's a
So
good buddy.
just to simplify the numbers.
Uh-huh.
And imagine that's your buddy, and your buddy needs calories, and say it's $1 million, dollar to operate a company or whatever, 1 million calories. So fasting is the absence of revenue for the company. Imagine you come to the CEO and you tell them, sorry, you have $0 tomorrow. So you can imagine that and this is why fasting is separate from any other diet. Any other diet, you come to that CEO, you tell them, hey, I will give you 950,000. He'll be like, I have enough in the bank and I'll live off that. I'll skim a little bit of expenditure. I should be fine. And this is what happens with any other diet. You eat a little bit lower calories and then, you have enough in the bank. That's the fat. And then you decrease that fat and you lose weight on the long term, but, you cope with it. And with fasting, you create a crisis. If there's one word I want folks to learn from today, fasting works as a stress. So you come to that CEO and you tell him, hey, you need 1 million, I'm going to give you 0. You can imagine, even if he has money in the bank, that money is going to drop fast. So you lose weight very fast as a buddy. But at the same time, he's going to feel a crisis and he's going to take action. So he's going to start restructuring and reorganizing and both functions and budgets and structure, meaning people. He's going to let some people go. He's going to promote others. And this is how fasting works on the body. It's a super fast decrease, yes, in the bank account or in fat, which has a lot of great metabolic benefits. The blood pressure, the inflammation, the insulin resistance, all of that are great. So losing this bank account fast is good. But one of the bigger impacts is you're pushing the body under stress to rejuvenate the cells. So the body comes to the cells and says, look, I don't have enough to feed you. The crisis is so big. I do have some reserve, but they're not enough. You, Miss Cell, you got to rejuvenate. You got to fix your DNA. You got to and you got to start eating from inside. You have debris here, organelles here. You have some toxins. Don't be spoiled. Just rejuvenate and restructure. Be ready. Tough times are coming. That rejuvenation is the magic of fasting, because it helps you biologically to slow your aging process, in certain cases even be a little bit younger, right? A worn and torn cell that's spoiled, that's increasing in intracellular fat and debris and toxin doesn't care. It's like a company with tons of revenues. They hire and they hire and they spend and they spend, and then you put it under crisis, you see the restructuring happening. And that's the magic of fasting, is you win both on metabolic and weight, and you win on cellular aging and rejuvenation. So it's a stress, to answer your question. As a stress, you don't want to play with stresses, left and right. And hopefully today, what we're going to do to your listeners is to help them uncover how to fast healthy and what kind of hours or days and classify them, because the last thing you want to do to a company is to bankrupt the company. If you come, that CEO needs 1 million, he'll restructure in month 1, but month 2, he'll go bankrupt. And you want to know how many times you want to take him into this cycle. If every 2 months you're going to take him to it, then employees might leave that company and will never. So I'm talking how fasting works to tell you that it's a serious intervention and should not be taken lightly, and therefore should be done in a healthy way, and has tremendous benefits, but come at a cost that we got to be aware of.
I'm feeling that. Now, Dr. Anton, there are many different, before we get into the stressors and stuff like that, because I definitely want to touch on that. Can you define what fasting is to you? Because I know that there's obviously a lot of buzzwords out there, the 8-16, the intermittent fast, yada, yada. And your take on this is fascinating to me. Can you elaborate?
Yeah, I mean, if you open a dictionary and you see what fasting is the absence of food. So that's if you want the common definition on the street. But you want to go deeper than that. I mean, if you had your lunch at 1 p.m. and you don't eat at 1:30, it doesn't mean you're fasting, right? So
Yeah.
you're not eating, right? It's the absence of food at 1:30, but you just ate. So for us, we'd like to understand physiologically what is fasting.
Yes.
And physiologically is when there's a demand on food and food is not there. So you're creating it, that meaning you ate and your body digested the food and now you're absorbing this food. So there's nutrients circulating in your body even 6 hours, 8 hours after you ate the last time. So physiologically you're happy, you have nutrients. And then the nutrients go sorry, they
God
go to
bless
the
you.
cell. Thank you. They go to the cells and now the cells are fed and happy. They're not fasting yet. Then the cells consume these calories and now they're in demand of food and food is not coming. So that phase is where fasting physiologically happens and is a new or a little bit more advanced fasting definition, which we cornered our founder, again, Professor Walter Longo, who was named by Time Magazine among the top 50 most influential people in health for bringing back fasting to the world and being the father of the fasting science. And for those who want to read his book, the Longevity Diet book, I highly, highly recommend that. It was Amazon bestselling for 2018 and talks about how to fast and when to fast and how to eat in general healthy to live long. But to close the parenthesis is he came up with a new definition or a new explanation due to science and technology, nutri-technology, is you can even fast with food, meaning now that the cell physiologically needs food, if I can come and give it some food, but not to certain satisfaction level, it's still getting under the stress of fasting. To simplify that, I'm the CEO that I have a in need per month. And if somebody comes in, so once I need this money, I'm already fasting, right? That's the physiological one. And if somebody comes in and gives me $200,000, I'm still feeling the stress of $800,000. I'm not satisfied. So I still feel the stress of restructuring, the rejuvenation stress, and all this. So we take it a little bit further and we talk about biological fast, which is we can still put some ingredients and nutrients in the body, which actually we as a company, we're based off that. We like to do fasting with. Is why you want to put a CEO under $0 and he won't be able to even keep his employees. He's not going to be able to supply anything to sell and survive next month. You make a lot of difficult decisions that can, hinder his flourishment or hinder his growth and hinder the thrive of the company the next month. So for us, in our theory, why we sell food that mimics the benefits of fasting is like, hey, give that CEO a good $400,000, $500,000, let him keep the base operation, keep the stress of fasting at a good level, and let that stress push him to cut certain ineffective expenditure and let few employees go if he wants to that are not doing their job. Let him revise the strategy and all of that. So we put the body in check without taking the body into a full crisis that might be unhealthy. And so that's the advanced definition of fasting, which is still you can do it with food. Our technology is called the fasting mimicking diet, and this is, if you want, the latest definition that our science and the National Institute of Health thankfully has sponsored a lot of our research to help bring fasting in a safe and compliant way to the market. And so, yeah, that's the third definition of fasting.
That answers a lot of questions. However, it brings upon this. What is the difference between your definition of fasting and a low calorie diet then?
The low calorie diet is, as we said, is you give say $800,000 to that CEO, 900,000. So you're feeding still the body, the cells. The cells are getting enough calories, and the cell has three radars. I'm going to simplify that. There are three pathways in a cell that tells the cell that hey, you're being nourished and you're satisfied. There's the PKA and the RAS pathways, which are mostly triggered by the carbohydrate, glucose, and insulin track. And you have the TOR pathway, which is another pathway that's triggered by protein and the IGF track. So one senses the protein, two senses the carb. They do overlap, so they both sense both. But I'm just simplifying that. In these other receptors, that this is the finest department that tells the company, hey, I have enough, coming in. And so you can go around these receptors, or you can trigger them below their radar level. And this is how we work as a fasting and mimicking diet versus other low-calorie diets, where you're feeding the cell, but the cell detects the food. It's not super full, so still would burn fat and will lose weight, but it's not fasting. And this is what took over 20, $30 million in research on the fasting and mimicking diet in 10 years. Like, what are these thresholds, and how can I make fasting safe for you? So I want to feed you. I don't want you to fast by starvation. We want you to fast by being nourished. So how much I can feed you without actually triggering the receptors on the cell saying, hey, we're satisfied. So we keep the stress, you get the benefits, but at the same time, you're able to do it in a safe way, and you nourish your essential organs.
A lot of bells are going off for me. This sounds like almost too good to be true here, Dr. Anton. I got a couple more follow-up questions for you here. Um, so circling back to this is a stress on the body.
Yeah,
Specifically speaking to the cohort of individuals that you're, addressing here, we're dealing with people who are, obviously physically fit. So that's obviously a stressor. They probably have, intense work where they're pretty stressed there.
yeah,
We're also talking about potentially having kids and a family and supporting them. And then, maybe lack of sleep, maybe
yeah,
some alcohol consumption. That's a lot of stressors to kind of handle in one day.
yeah,
It seems, on surface value, adding another stressor to this equation by adding in
yeah.
fasting is that going in the right direction, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So um, you mentioned that I'm going to answer a part and then go back to the top line. But you
Yeah.
mentioned there that they're doing exercise and busy, and that's great actually. When we talk about rejuvenation through fasting, that process is called autophagy. Wanted to clarify that a lot of your listeners probably are getting familiarized with this word. Autophagy is self-eat. So when you put a stress on a cell, the cell starts eating the debris and organelles and fixing itself to survive that. And autophagy won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2016, meaning as a response to fasting. The other way to get to autophagy is actually is high intensity exercise. You create Now you're nourished, but because the burn of the calorie is so high, you can get into autophagy as well. So like you said, if you're a very active mid-age individual, you don't need potentially, and especially if you're exercising, you don't want to starve yourself for longer periods. And adding to the stress that you said, a good balance of 12 hours and 14 hours a day plus exercising in the morning can get you into a healthy balance. And that's exactly how humanity actually evolved, and how we were, what we talk about today, we call it intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, restricting the time of eating to certain hours. It was part of our diet. We today live a fad of eating all the time. Our ancestors lived actually through a period of 10, 12 hours at least with no food, where they were having supper at 4, 5, 6. There was no electricities or a refrigerator waiting, with food at night. And they were waking up, and then either eating some leftovers or going and seeking food again. So exercise in the morning and certain nutritional level, but not eating all the time, was part of our diet. And when we go back and do this intermittent fasting, this is why it's showing a lot of benefits. It's taking us actually from the fad that we're living today. Because people ask me, is fasting a fad? Are we going to actually, what fasting is uncovering is we're living in a fad, and the more we go back and we match our body with what it's used to live and eat, the more actually we go back on track with longevity and healthy aging. And this is what our science is uncovering. So the stress of fasting, to answer now on the emotional side of your question, you said they have kids, they're married, they're exercising, you want to add another stress. It's
And they
actually not
and
a
they don't want to give any of that stuff up, by the way. Trust me.
yes. And I'm a father, and I'm within that category as well. So it's not an emotional stress to the adding. Actually, one of the outcomes of fasting is energy, is performance, is sleep, is a quality of life that's enhanced, especially mental and body performance. It's a stress on itself. at least the fasting that we recommend, which is with food. And that's the entire purpose, is to bring food so that the stress decreases. And if you want to do fasting without food, without the fasting mimicking diet, we recommend you do the 12 to 14 hours. And I know the biggest trend today is 16 hours, and people go to 18 and 20. And we're going to talk about this because it's very important. The longer you go, obviously, the more you burn calories. But at the same time, the more you're starving the essential organs of the body. So um, to summarize, 12 to 14 hours is something we recommend, water only, because this is how, or 12 hours, this is how our body is actually built in. You sleep early, or you eat the last meal early, then you sleep. And the Nobel Prize in Medicine in 2017 was actually on the organs having a biological clock. So not only it's fasting working on autophagy and rejuvenation, but also it's actually the organs, the same as the brain. They need to rest, and they need to get a period with no activities and no food. So we have two Nobel Prize in Medicine now pointing that way. And then in the morning, you eat a light breakfast and you can go to work. So this is something that's definitely in line of longevity studies, in line of what we believe in. If you want to go further, 14, 16, 18, 20 hours. The science of fasting for 16 and 18 hours comes from a lot of doctors actually helping their patients. Yeah, and it got to the general consumer, and it's tricky a little bit, because if you want to stay 18 hours without food, I can see your doctor recommending that if you're diabetic, if you're very obese, if you have diabetes, and you have a short-term reason to lose the weight fast, because there's a price to fasting. The price of fasting is that my brain now is 18 hours with no food, is my heart is pumping every second with no food, is my kidneys are filtering the blood with no food, and that's a stress on essential organs. So if you want to prolong the fast to 16, 18, and 20 hours, either do it with food, with a fasting mimicking diet, or have a short-term reason to do that outweigh the starvation of the body. And people ask me, how do you know that the brain is starving? We have neoglucogenesis. The liver is a credit, can dump some energy. We have fat and we have glycogen and we can burn, and that's all true. But there's no switch you flip and suddenly you have all the calories you need from those. And we have the proof of that. The proof is your brain. You feel fatigued and you have a headache at 3, 4 p.m. if you don't eat. Your muscles and the heart are telling you, hey, I'm fatigued. Cannot get up and run. And the brain is showing you a headache, and your mood, and that's the real stress. So the body speaks up, tells you, hey, I need to eat. It's not healthy for me to go this long without food. So to summarize, if you're healthy, 12 to 14 hours, that's actually rematching your body with longevity and healthy aging. You want to go longer, do it with a fasting mimicking diet, or do it if you have a short-term medical concern that outweigh the cost on the short term of fasting long. So this is for intermittent fasting. We are a little bit more known for the 5 days fasting mimicking diet, and
Yes,
that's
that's where I was more familiar with. Could you
yeah.
elaborate there?
Yeah, that's not the typical intermittent fasting or time restricted eating, meaning that's not I'm fasting for 12 or 14 or 16 hours. That's fasting for 5 days. And of course, we don't recommend you fast on water for 5 days. That's a huge stress and depletion on your body. And we do it with food. And you said an expression 5 minutes ago that I'm not going to let go. You said too hard to believe, and this is why the science and the National Institute of Health and 16 universities came to do the research with us. We have over now 14 clinical trials that are completed on the fasting mimicking diet on the 5 days. And we have 12 ongoing today. And we got over 210 patents globally on the innovation that we have. And so the goal, why to take you through a journey of 5 days of fast with food again. So your cells are fasting, but you're eating. Let us clarify that to everyone listening today. It's a food that we ship to you at home, and you eat it. You have a day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're eating, but your cells are fasting. That's the biological fast we talked about. And the goal is to, as you can imagine, if you stress if let's go back to the CEO example. If you come to me and I need $1 million, and you tell me, you know what, I'm not gonna, you have $0 till tomorrow. That's intermittent fasting. I'm like, okay, my bank account will drop 1/30th of a million, but I'm not going to go and restructure the entire company, right? Now, if it goes longer, day 2, 3, 4, 5, then I go back and restructure deeper the company and change and optimize the function. So the 5-day fasting mimicking diet is to take a little bit on this, what we call periodic fasting. Help your cells go and rejuvenate for over 2, 3, or 4 days so that you get a deep biological effect. And we have few trials that we test to show the benefits on metabolic benefits and healthy aging benefits, and it takes you into a new system. Basically, when you spend 5 days throughout this rejuvenation, you get less addicted to whatever you were doing before, whether you were addicted to your cokes, to your drinks, to your toxins, to your meat, to everything else. It basically not only biologically resets you, but it resets also your addiction and your relationship with food. It sets a new system. Instead of intermittent fasting is a little bit as a yo-yo, meaning I don't eat for 12 or 14 hours and then I eat and then I don't eat the next day. Whereas that periodic fast of 5 days is literally turned, which is a new epigenetic adjustments to it, the microbiome adjust and all of that. So it's a full reset. The biggest word we hear about it, it's a reset of the performance, the brain, the mind. We see people changing their relationship with food and going back and conducting a healthier life. So it sets a trend with your body and does a very deep biological rejuvenation.
It's very interesting because you think anecdotally, by not eating for 5 days, the first thing that you put in your mouth after those 5 days probably is awesome.
Yeah.
Like because I think we're wired to eat, right?
We're right to eat, and this is why we do it with food. And if you do it without food, is I think is has a lot of a stress on the body. When you do it with food, you come out of day 6. Actually, you've been eating for 5 days, but on day 6, you feel like, hey, wait a second, I don't need I'm not craved. I'm not going back and jumping at 1 a.m. to grab to open the fridge and eat the last slice of pizza. I don't feel like I want to dump red meat and big burgers and big pizzas right away. You feel like, hey, I a lot of the folks that do diets, they end up having learned helplessness, right? Because every diet you started somewhere, and it's like an open-ended phenomenon. You got to everyday sacrifice one day due to stress, due to life happens, due to you got to you feel you failed and you feel you're off that diet, and that's a recipe. When you force somebody to do something every day, it's a recipe for failure. So fasting, because the stress is high, it gives you the results in a short period of time. So for example, we compared the 5-day fasting mimicking diet to doing Mediterranean diet every day. And the results was almost 95% identical, the metabolic results you get from that. So it's a higher concentrated stress, gives you most of the benefits. And then you can do it because you sacrifice 5 days and then you go back to your life for 25 other days.
As you come off a periodized fast, what do you recommend your diet should look like? Obviously, you just mentioned the Mediterranean diet. Is there something that you've seen in the research and through your science that is like
Yeah.
pretty tried and true?
It depends, the food question, again, we come from science, so general answers don't work, right? You gotta tailor to the individual microbiome, epigenetic and genetics, needs, goals, etc. So I'll give you 3, 4 general answers, but they gotta be specific to individuals.
I'm in.
If your goal is to live healthy long, say, you know what, I'm not here to gain muscle. I'm not here to look beautiful and buff tomorrow. I'm not here to treat a health
I
condition. I
mean, I know
just
you're looking at me right now, but you could talk
it's
about the
fine.
rest of the audience.
So if your goal to say, look, I'm 40 to 60 or 7-year-old today, and I'm getting old, and not old. We're say 50 year young, but I'm feeling that hey,
I
my
call them
body
ageless. It's a nice soft term, soft
exactly
language. Everybody's happy.
exactly. And you want to stay either young, you feel we start feeling at this age the delta between our heart and mind and our body, right? I mean, you're wanting to do things, but your body is not responding to those. And hey, your parents at this age are developing disease or passing away, and you're saying, I'm concerned about my health span. Health span is staying healthy long, right? Versus longevity, just living long. I want to extend my health span. I want to stay healthy long. And if that's your primary goal, a lot of the research that we've done and is summarized in the longevity diet book is, and we study centenarians, people who live 100 and beyond, and we go back to labs, we do trials, and the conclusion is that potentially if a pescatarian or a flexitarian diet will match that goal of health span. A pescatarian diet, for those who don't know, is eating plant-based diet, and the main source of protein, animal protein, would be fish. And a flexitarian diet is the same, but very rarely you can add red meat to the source of protein. So flexitarian is plant-based. You add, fish, main source of animal protein, but also from time to time you do red meat. And this goes back again. People always debate, no, you should do this. You should. The way we are built, we've been tailored by nature and evolution, and we've lived on this planet for long enough to adjust. And we lived around rivers for the longer period. We didn't live we slept probably in caves to protect, but we didn't like sit in a cave all the time, or in a mountain where it's cold and there's no green and water, nor by the ocean where there's no green and grass and you cannot drink that water. We lived around rivers where you can drink the water, take your bath, and then around the rivers is where everything is green, trees and grass, and you can eat fruits and vegetables. So rivers were very important for human evolution, and in the river there's fish, and fish is the only animal that cannot fly or run, laterally, and it was
A
easier
little
to
easier to catch.
yeah, a little easier than cat.
Couple little oysters, clams, maybe a trout here and there.
Yeah, exactly. So we were plant-based the most, and we were eating seafood from time to time, and this is how our body gets used to it. But we've been, for thousands of years able to hunt as well, and we added red meat, and so probably our body adjusted as well to that. So where the zone of healthy aging is between a pescatarian and flexitarian diet. So if you tell me it's ageless is what you guys are looking at, intermittent fasting and some periodic fasting plus pescatarian and flexitarian diet is a general recommendation. It's always, we should give nutrition enough respect to tailor it as well, like we tailor medicine to people. So that's a high recommendation. Some people genetically are predisposed to take weight faster. Some people are high catabolizers. Some people have a different microbiome. So I'm not giving an absolute answer as much as an answer that works for most. Now, if your goal is to, look a little bit buff and build muscle, and with some
My ears are
people,
burning again, Doc.
and then after they do fasting mimicking diet, I see a lot of athletes they go back to protein, and definitely if you want to merge longevity and muscle and lean body mass, do plant-based protein. And here let's demystify a little bit. The protein industry for the last 15 years worked a lot on our marketing, and they want us to get to 1.5 and 2.5 grams of protein per kg, and this is way too much. The muscle, if the muscle grew at that rate, we would all be Arnold Schwarzenegger already today, right? I mean, you see most people at the gyms and everywhere, eating the steaks and the eggs and drinking the shakes and every day, and this is very high signal of protein, and still, I mean, you would definitely add muscle mass. But we're trying to say don't go that far, because proteins are spiking IGF. IGF in the body is insulin-like growth factor. It's a growth factor. When you spike growth factors, insulin or IGF, you're pushing the pro-aging signal. Mm-hmm. So every time you eat carbs and spike insulin, every time you spike IGF, you're sending signals of growth. Right? The body's saying, "Wow, I'm very well fed. You need $1 million. I'm giving you $1.5 million. So go and expand that company." And unfortunately, biologically, we grow towards our end. We don't grow anywhere. We grow from day one to whatever day we're going to die. And when you push biological aging, you're just pushing aging. And I'll give you.
That was actually, if I it might interrupt, that was actually one of the most fascinating things that I learned. And obviously, I looked into the biochemistry and the research a little bit. So just to make it clear that, those who are looking to maintain muscle mass, or sorry, improve muscle mass past the, let's say, adolescent years, you're basically getting to the finish line quicker. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if you overdo it, because you can improve, what I'm trying to say, you can improve your body mass by going, say, from 0.7 grams, go to 0.8, 0.91. You don't need to go to 1.5 to 2, because then you're not adding muscle mass, because the muscle doesn't have that capability to grow this fast every day.
Yep.
But you're paying the price of getting a big aging signal.
Got it.
And you see that, right? You see that. Ronnie Coleman is an example. I'm gonna take extreme examples so that people,
Now you be careful here. He's a god to me. Okay, you tread lightly here. Go right
I
ahead,
love
Doc. Oh, he's a
the
Dallas guy too, as a matter of fact.
nicest big guy, but we lost him early. All the big athletes, the big wrestlers, right? Andre the Giant, all the other big. The more you grow, we grow biologically. We don't grow, tridimensionally. And so these guys, although they're like age 50 or 60 chronologically, inside, because of the testosterone or growth hormone or the high protein, they're actually 70 and 80, and this is why they die. And we see this in acromegaly. If you want to take the extreme example, is there some people, unfortunately, they have high production of growth hormone in their body, which then grows IGF, the same signal that protein growth. And you see them, they grow, they're tall, they're big, they can get muscular fast, but they have 10 years on average shorter life than ours. 10 years. So I wanted with you today first to explain fasting to your folks, and number two, I'm happy we're touching on healthy aging, is don't over proteinize your body. Don't over, it's I call it the diabetes of protein. It's easy to understand diabetes. Oh, you eat high carb, you have high glucose, you have diabetes, insulin resistance. Well, protein is exactly another nutrients. And the more you increase the protein, the more you're increasing your aging, and therefore you're going to encounter cancer earlier. You're going to encounter diabetes earlier. You're going to encounter Alzheimer's earlier. And we had published a paper in Cell Metabolism back in 2016 showing that 400% increase in risk of cancer happens when the IGF is very high in your body.
And was that obviously that's a observational study, or is that a meta-analysis?
No, well, I'm happy you bring that up. We're going to publish meta-analysis in a few months, a
Okay.
big meta-analysis on IGF, and you're going to see that U-shape where you should be high on IGF when you're young because you're growing vertically.
Yep.
As a kid and adolescent. You got to maintain IGF to a certain degree, a little bit low, so that you don't push your body to age. And then end of, when you're 70, 75, 80, we say after 65, you start having a little bit of decreased absorption. Muscle becomes an organ of longevity. At age 35, you don't depend on your muscle, you can repair it fast. At age 75, if something happens to your hip or to your quadriceps, you cannot walk. That's a big issue for your body.
It's
and
a
mobility.
slippery slope.
Yeah, and anyhow, you're absorbing, food a little bit slower. You don't have a lot of rejuvenation capability in your cells. So then protein comes back and becomes very important after age 65 and 70. And this is what we're going to show the word soon is that life cycle. This is why you always see me giving a general recommendation, but it also depends which age you are, what is your goal, etc. But for the people age 40 and 60, this is not the time. You're pre-disease. We're all pre-disease at this age. This is not the time to send the body to age faster and encounter faster one of your chronic diseases that are age-related. And there's no magic, in medicine. In medicine, we think Alzheimer's is different than diabetes, and diabetes is different than cancer, and cancer is different than, dementia. I mean, they're not. They're all. If they were completely independent, why you don't get diabetes at age 22? Why you don't get your first heart attack at age 24? And even if you have the ApoE gene, you're not going to get your Alzheimer's at age 26. You get them later stage in life. So you get the symptoms of aging. This is like when you drive your car for 200,000 miles and then the window is not opening and they say, oh, there was a manufacturing problem in the window. No, it was consumed and abused, and it happened in the window. If you fix the window, after 3 months, you're going to have to fix a filter in the engine. Mm-hmm. And this is how the new way of looking at medicine, most chronic diseases that are age-related are actually coming from how you age. And if you age healthy, and this is why fasting is so important for longevity, is if you slow down the aging process, if you rejuvenate your cells from time to time, you're going to age gracefully. And that's a major contribution to the health and the quality of your aging, which is the number one correlate of getting the age-related health conditions.
So we've got flexitarians / pescatarians. We've got maybe bumping up your protein intake just a bit to maintain some lean muscle mass. Nothing over 1 gram per pound of body weight. Is that correct?
And there's a very fast decrease in return on protein after that. So you're
Yes.
not gonna.
And by the way, making up the rest of the calories within that diet, you would then make it up mostly probably in fat, just so we're not also signaling carbohydrate, or can we go a little bit more carbohydrate depending upon how the effect is on the body?
Well, again, it depends. If you're building
Okay,
muscle by running and you're burning a lot, you need your carbs.
got it.
If you're building muscle by pushing and this is low burning, then you want to have healthy fats, not the unhealthy fats. So
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've covered those two. You said there were two more.
I said three, yeah, three
Oh,
different.
three. Go
But
ahead.
here,
Three
yeah,
individuals.
if you're doing fasting now for prevention or you have a health condition or these are different, so the brain loves the fat, you do more of the fat. Your heart likes more the protein, the cardiovascular system, so you want to go a little bit lower on fat with the cardiovascular system. You want to be a little bit more on the protein side. So then you go down into kind of health management, not just yeah.
Got it. Got it. So obviously, around that, there would probably be recommendations in terms of sleep, exercise, that kind of stuff. So, in your experience, working probably with hundreds, if not thousands and thousands of clients, as individuals age, what do you see as not only through your experiences but also through the research in terms of the exercise that we should be partaking in?
Yeah, we haven't. I personally or our company deals more with nutrition than exercise. So
Yep.
what we know for sure is longevity has five pillars. It's nutrition, exercise, and probably nutrition competes for number one. And it competes probably for number one with happiness, by the way, with social connectivity, with receiving and giving love, is it's family, it's being serene and being calm and being loved and giving love. And food competes with that as number one. And then you have exercise and you have sleep and you have stress. So these are the five pillars: nutrition, diet, nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress. Um, and we mentioned what exercise, nutrition, street sleep, and social capital, and giving or receiving love.
Hmm.
Um, so on exercise, I mean, same, very important. You don't see a lot of science of longevity and randomized clinical trials. Somehow the businesses control this. We're trying to put some order in nutrition, but so I'm if I don't know, I'm not going to answer. I can what I personally do, but I don't know if that's the ideal one. I mean, and I'm thinking a little bit mirroring mirroring a little bit nutrition is you stress from time to time. You do stress exercise from time to time, but you maintain a good balance and a good move and a good system. So this is what I do. A few times doing some a little bit intensive, sending strong signal to maintain lean body mass and strong signals to the bone for aging. But doing every day your 30 minutes to keep that basal homeostatic rate, and it's very important because you asked me about what's the difference between fasting and also other diets.
Hmm.
Fasting as a stress, like exercise for the muscle, they keep a tone. By the way, fasting, the fasting mimicking diet, we noticed you don't lose relatively lean body mass with it. So it maintains relative lean body mass
Mm.
because it's a stress and the tone of the muscle is there. So imagine, and that's built in us. So if there's no food, imagine say 15, 20,000 years ago, we're built to break down fat and produce ketones to keep the brain up so that we don't faint. And there's a higher growth hormone secretion and stress on the muscle to keep the tone and walk and find the fruit and the vegetable. So that that keeps a good metabolic rate because it's very important when you do long-term low calorie diets. Metabolic rate decreases, why the exercise is so important.
Yep.
And then the moment you go back to food, if your metabolic rate is low, you gain back the weight very fast.
That was actually going to be a question that I had for you in terms of, if we are doing a fasting mimicking diet, what is the overall calorie intake going to be looking like?
Our fasting maybe diet, you do 1,100 the first day, and then 800 for the remaining 4 days. It's a 5 day.
Yeah, if you're doing a 5 day. Now, if you say you were doing like a 12-hour, like an intermittent fast, would you try to be consuming what would your calorie breakdown look like there?
Yeah, we don't change if you do intermittent fasting, say 12 hours, then you're eating in a window of another 12 hours. You can eat the same, for men, I go 1,600 all the way to 2,000. If you're active, 2,400, 2,500.
Hmm.
For women, a little bit less, but
Yep.
depends on your activity again and your size
Yep.
and your BMI and all of that. But I wouldn't change, meaning I wouldn't just adjust because the fasting works again with time, not with quantity of calories.
Correct.
Uh, so that's a different two separate notions. But you don't want to also binge eat and go and do worse. And the biggest mistake you can do is eating late at night, saying, "Hey, I'm going to fast tomorrow," or "I'm going to." The late night eating is actually more. It's even worse than what fasting can compensate for. And we see this in a lot of trials where observational, whereby they say, look, people who skip food naturally, they're not getting a lot of in the morning. They're not getting a lot of benefits because the people who naturally don't eat in the morning are actually most of them late night eaters.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
they wake up, they're a little bit of reflux, and they don't have a big appetite. And fasting is even not able to compensate, imagine, for that damage. So late night eating is the one biggest recommendation we can give to people also today to avoid that.
What do you consider late night eating? Is that like more like 10 o'clock stuff or 7 or 8?
Yeah, and again, there's no randomized trials on that, but
Yep.
definitely 7, 8 observationally. Eating at between 6 and 8. I mean, if you're gonna go to 9 and you tell me then I go for an hour walk, that's God bless, right? And then the next day you can eat at 9, at
Yeah.
5 again, 5, yeah. So, but follow the 2017 Nobel Prize in Medicine
Yeah.
circadian rhythm. When the sun is going down is when our organs are saying, you know what, the sun is down,
I like it.
we've had a long day, we want to go and rest. The brain wants to rest, the body wants to rest. Anything you do artificially after that, late night TV watching, late night stress, late night eating, is something that's disturbing a little bit to the body.
Love it. Love it. Okay. So recommendation wise, we're going to eat with the sun kind of, if we're doing like an intermittent fasting kind of thing, you wake up with the sun, you eat, and then you're done. You
Yeah,
cease
I mean,
eating right around sundown.
ideally, though, I mean, obviously today we family meets around dinner and we
Yep.
eat dinner a little later. So definitely we're not saying for people to eat at
Yes.
6 today, but hey, 7, 8, max 9, and we want to be practical. A lot of our life revolves around dinner today with families. But yeah, I agree.
Okay. So last topic I want to hit you on. Say someone signs up for your L-Nutra 5-day fast, and this is a person obviously in the cohort that we're speaking to right now. They're probably doing this what, every 3 months or so, 4 months or so.
Yeah. So the product is called Prolon. We
Yep.
called it Prolon, Prolon. It's a box that gets to your home. It has 5 boxes in it. They're your food for every day. And I'll pick two profiles of people and give you two protocols. So
Let's do
say
it.
you're fit, you're healthy, you're 42, 43, and then you're not worried about an imminent, risk and you don't want to lose weight per se. That's not your first target. So you're doing it for rejuvenation. You're doing for the cellular biological fasting. Then you can do it just 2, 3, or 4 times a year. Once a quarter is enough. Three times a year is enough. If you want to shed some weight, you kind of have some predeterminants or health risks that you're concerned with. Then you do it 3 times in a row, meaning over 3 months. It's only 5 days a month. So you do 5 days, you do 25 days back to your lifestyle, another 5 day, and then another 5 day month number 3. And then you see if you reach your objectives with your weight and your energy and your performance. If you're satisfied, then you start doing it only to maintain once every quarter. If you still want to go further, then you can add month or another month up until you reach your goal, and then you start doing it just once every quarter to maintain.
Dude, that sounds like a pretty good deal. If people
Yeah,
want to,
we don't
go ahead.
we don't push for. I think the recipe of every day being on a specific diet is pushed by business and by subscriptions. We're not that. We figured out a way to integrate within your life. Give me 5 days of per month, and 5 days or every 3 months. And I think we have a very effective intervention that's going to help you through fasting. It's a great signal to the body to have to age gracefully and shed some weight.
Dr. Antoine, if they want to learn more about this, potentially sign up, how can they do it?
The website is prolonfast.com.
Hmm.
they can go there and read more about the product. The company L-Nutra has more science on our website, l-nutra.com. You can read the articles there. You can see the science. You can read about the mission of the company. Our founder, who still owns half of the company, has pre-donated all this to charities and foundation. So we definitely carry the science on one arm, and we're a social impact company on the other arm. So we'd love your support, and would love to change your life with our products.
Dr. Joseph Antoun phoning in from Dallas, Texas. Dr. Antoun, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Sean.
Have a great day.
Good. You too.
Stay safe. Thank you so much for Dr. Antoun for coming on today's podcast and sharing his wealth of knowledge in the nutrition world with us here. If you want to learn more about L-Nutra or the products that they sell, head to their website, l-nutra.com. If you like today's podcast, make sure you subscribe, rate it, review it, and share with a friend. We'll see you next time with a brand new episode of the Fitness, Wellness, and Longevity Podcast.